Hey Reddit. I've been lurking here for years, but today I need to get this off my chest. I don't know if I'm looking for advice, validation, or just someone to hear me out. I, 35F, divorced my ex-husband Jason, 38M, 4 years ago. We were together for nearly a decade, married for 6. We have one daughter together, Ellie, she's 7 now, and for the longest time, we co-parented surprisingly well. Jason was always that chill guy. Cool with everything. Never liked to rock the boat even when maybe he should have. Back when we were married, that laid-back nature was something I appreciated until it started to feel like passivity. Like he was too cool to ever take a stand even for me. Even when I was exhausted juggling work, Ellie, and running a household, he'd just shrug and say, "You're doing great, babe," and pop another IPA. Like that was helpful. But he was never cruel, never unkind. Just checked out. Our divorce wasn't explosive, it was one of those slow burns where you realize the person you built your life with stopped showing up somewhere along the way. We agreed on joint custody. 50-50ths. We were both there at every school event, every Christmas concert. When he met his new wife, Savannah, 32F, I really wanted to be the cool ex. The no drama mom. I even smiled for photos at Ellie's birthday party last year when Savannah tagged along like she belonged there. And you know what? I bit my tongue. I told myself if she's good to Ellie, I'll be good to her. Except, she's not. It started with little things. Snide comments Savannah would make in front of Ellie, stuff that might seem innocent to someone who doesn't know better. "Oh, I guess your mom doesn't let you have juice boxes, huh? That's too bad." Or, "Didn't your mom teach you to brush your hair before school?" That kind of passive-aggressive venom that slips under your skin. Ellie started coming home quieter than usual. I'd ask her if she had fun with Daddy and Savannah and she'd just nod. No stories, no giggles like she used to. At first, I chalked it up to adjusting to the new normal. Blended families are hard. Then came her birthday this year. We were planning her party together and I was letting Ellie choose her guest list. She's never been the most social kid, but she knew who she wanted there, a few classmates, her grandparents, and of course, her dad. But when I asked about Savannah, her whole face changed. She clutched her stuffed bear, the one she sleeps with every night, and whispered, "I don't want her to come, Mommy. Please don't make me." I asked her why, and she just said she doesn't like me. She says I ruin things. My heart sank. I felt this horrible twist in my gut. I asked, gently, if Savannah ever yelled at her or hurt her, and she just looked down and said she pinched my arm when Daddy wasn't looking. And she said not to be a baby about it. I saw red. I called Jason that night. I didn't come out guns blazing. I told myself I'd stay calm, rational, mature. I told him what Ellie said. And you know what he did? He laughed. He said, "Savannah's strict. That's all. Maybe Ellie's just not used to someone being firm with her." Then he said, and I quote, "You baby her too much and she knows how to play you." I hung up. I cried in my kitchen like I hadn't since the day he left. Not because of Jason, I was long over him. But because I realized something I never thought I'd have to admit, my daughter wasn't safe in his home. And he was okay with that. That night, Ellie climbed into bed with me and said, "Can I stay here all the time?" And I said yes. I didn't even think. I just said yes. I started documenting everything. Every scratch. Every offhand comment Ellie repeated. Every time Jason was late for pickup or brushed off my concerns. I contacted a lawyer. I've never been the fight dirty type, but I'm fighting now. Because Ellie's scared of this woman and Jason is more concerned with keeping the peace in his marriage than protecting his child. I haven't told Jason I'm pursuing full custody yet. But it's coming. And I don't care if he thinks I'm overreacting. I'd rather be the overprotective mom than the one who stood by while her daughter was belittled, bruised, and bullied by someone who wasn't even blood. This is just the beginning of the storm, I know that. But if Savannah thinks she can mess with my kid and get away with it, she has no idea who she's dealing with. It didn't take long before things started boiling over. Ellie's party was the turning point, the first obvious crack in the mirror Jason and Savannah liked to keep spotless for social media. See, Jason had already RSVP'd yes to Ellie's birthday. I told him Savannah wasn't invited and I was polite but firm about it. I said Ellie asked for this and I think it's important we honor her wishes. His response? A passive-aggressive "I'll talk to Savannah." I should have known then. The day of the party comes, a sunny Saturday in late April. I went all out because birthdays are sacred in our house. Streamers, bounce house, a Barbie cake with edible glitter, the works. My mom flew in, my sister baked cookies shaped like puppies, Ellie's favorite, and Ellie wore the sparkly purple dress she picked out 2 weeks in advance. She was beaming. For the first time in months, she looked like herself again. Then Jason showed up. And he brought Savannah. The second Ellie saw her, she froze. I mean completely froze, like someone had hit pause on her whole body. She went from bubbly giggles to silent in 2 seconds flat. Savannah gave me this tight, plastic smile and said, "Hope you don't mind." Jason said it'd be awkward if I didn't come. Then she bent down to Ellie's level and said, "Wow, this is what you picked for a party? Cute." I took Ellie's hand and led her inside. I didn't want a scene, but I could feel my hands shaking. I gave her a juice box and told her she didn't have to talk to Savannah if she didn't want to. She just nodded and went to sit with her cousin. The rest of the party she barely left my side. And then the real kicker, I went into the kitchen to grab more napkins and caught Savannah alone in the hallway talking on the phone. Her voice was low but harsh. "She's coddling that brat again," she hissed. "The kid's not even grateful," she told Jason. "She didn't want me there. If she were mine, I'd have knocked some manners into her by now." I didn't say anything. I just stared. She turned, saw me standing there, and her face didn't even twitch. She ended the call and said, "Oh hey, great party. The cake's a little sweet though." I didn't speak to her the rest of the day. But that night, after Ellie went to sleep, exhausted but trying so hard to pretend she'd had fun, I wrote everything down. Word for word. That was when I decided I couldn't play nice anymore. The next weekend was Jason's visitation. I almost canceled, but my lawyer said I needed to follow the schedule until we had a court order in process. Ellie didn't want to go. She clung to me and whispered, "Please don't make me go. She says I talk too much. She calls me slow." I crouched down, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You are not slow. You are kind and smart and brave. And you can tell me anything, okay?" She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe it. Not really. Not anymore. That Sunday night, Jason dropped her off an hour late. I opened the door and saw Ellie holding her arm funny. I asked what happened and she said she fell. But her eyes told a different story. When I got her into the bath, I saw a bruise on her forearm in the shape of fingers. The next morning, we were at the pediatrician's office. I didn't care if I had to be late to work. I wasn't letting this slide. The doctor documented everything. She asked Ellie what happened, and after some hesitation, Ellie said, "Savannah grabbed me really hard. I spilled my cereal on her shoes and she got mad. I felt like I was going to vomit." My little girl was sitting there, bare-legged and shivering, and I couldn't wrap my head around how anyone could put hands on her. Over cereal. I called Jason right after. I told him what Ellie said, what the doctor saw, and that I'd be filing an emergency motion for temporary sole custody. His response? "She's being dramatic. Savannah would never." That was the last time I tried to reason with him. I filed the motion the next day. This part of the story, it's the one that guts me the most. Because it wasn't just the abuse. It wasn't just Jason turning a blind eye. It was watching Ellie start to question her own worth, her own truth. Like maybe she was annoying. Maybe she did deserve it. That's what broke me. Not the bruises. Not the birthday. It was realizing how fast a child can start to believe the worst about herself when the adults around her refuse to step up. The day Savannah came for me was the day I stopped playing defense. It was a Tuesday afternoon, just a few days after I filed the emergency motion for custody. I'd spent the morning sending emails to the lawyer, gathering texts and voicemails, digging up every little breadcrumb that could help my case. I was emotionally wrecked but running on pure adrenaline. Ellie was at school, finally smiling again. I told her she didn't have to go to Jason's anymore until things get sorted, and the visible relief on her face? That alone told me I was doing the right thing. I was standing in line at the grocery store, trying to remember if I had any almond milk left at home, when I heard that voice behind me. "Oh, wow. Look who's pretending to be Mother of the Year. Savannah." I turned around and there she was, in full smug mode, sunglasses on indoors, iced coffee in one hand, her other hand on her hip like she was posing for a reality show confessional. I didn't say anything. I just stared, completely unprepared for her to come find me. She stepped closer. Too close. "You really think you're going to win this?" she said, her voice low. "Jason's not the only one who thinks you're unstable. Everyone knows how controlling you are. You're just mad Ellie likes me more than you." It took every ounce of strength not to laugh in her face. "Savannah," I said calmly, "you laid hands on my daughter. There's a medical report. It's already in front of a judge. This is way past petty insults." She scoffed. "She's a dramatic little brat and you know it." People were starting to turn and look. A man in the next checkout lane gave me a questioning glance. I ignored it. Savannah leaned in again, her voice sharp. "She hates it when you coddle her. That's why she prefers our place. Maybe if you weren't so desperate to be her best friend, she wouldn't be so." "She's 7, I snapped, my voice louder than I meant. "She's a child and you're a grown woman acting like a high school bully. Do not come near me again. And if you so much as text her, I'll file a restraining order." And then I walked away. I left a half-full cart behind and walked straight to my car, hands shaking so bad I had to sit there with the AC blasting for 10 minutes before I could drive. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about custody anymore. It was about Ellie's spirit, her sense of safety, her trust in the people who were supposed to protect her. And I couldn't afford to mess this up, not even a little. The court hearing was scheduled for the following Friday. In the meantime, I kept Ellie with me. Jason sent a couple of stiff texts. "This isn't fair, you're making a scene, you're confusing her," but I didn't reply. Let my lawyer handle that. Ellie, blissfully unaware of court filings and legal jargon, was thriving. She danced in the living room again. She asked if she could wear her pink tutu to bed just because. She started drawing these little pictures of our family, just me, her, and our cat Muffin. No Savannah. No Daddy. It was heartbreaking and healing at the same time. One night, after bath time, she told me, "I had a dream last night where you were a superhero and you made Savannah disappear with your laser eyes." I didn't cry, but it was close. "I don't have laser eyes," I said, "but I'll always protect you." That seemed to be enough. The days crawled by until the hearing. Jason didn't show up in person, he sent his lawyer instead. Savannah, shockingly, did show up and tried to make herself look like Mary Poppins in a blazer. But it didn't work. Between the photos of the bruise, the pediatrician's report, and Ellie's own quiet, heartbreaking statement given privately to the judge, the truth came through. I walked out of that courtroom with temporary sole custody. Jason gets supervised visits now. Savannah's banned from all contact. And Ellie? She slept through the night for the first time in weeks. I knew it wouldn't be over after the court ruling. Jason may have been passive for most of our relationship, going along with whatever was easiest, letting life happen to him like he was just floating through it, but something about losing control lit a fire under him. And not in the way I hoped. Not in a wake up and realize your daughter's well-being matters more than your ego kind of way. No. He decided to fight. And the way he chose to fight? Publicly. It started small. Passive-aggressive posts on Facebook, the kind only family and mutual friends would understand. Stuff like, "Some people will say anything to get what they want," or "Can't believe the system lets lies tear families apart." Accompanied by vague hashtags like #DadsMatter and #JusticeForFathers. He even posted a throwback photo of him and Ellie at the zoo when she was about 4, captioned, "She used to love seeing me." Like that wasn't a loaded message aimed squarely at me. But then he took it a step further. He called my mom. I'll never forget the text I got from her. Just one line. "Jason called me sobbing. Said you're turning Ellie against him." I stared at that message for 10 minutes before I responded. My mom is not the type to get involved unless absolutely necessary, but Jason must have gone full soap opera on her. She said he begged her to talk some sense into me, that he just wants his daughter back and that I'm being vindictive. It took every fiber of my being not to scream. I reminded her about the bruise, the behavior changes, the pediatrician's report, the judge's ruling, for God's sake. My mom is rock solid, bless her. She told Jason she trusted me and that if there was something he wanted to change, he could take it up with the court. But still, it rattled me. Because Jason had never been this aggressive before. He always let things slide. That was who he was. And suddenly, he was using every emotional weapon he had. That Friday, I got a letter from his lawyer. He was officially filing for full custody. Not shared. Not even primary. Full. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with that paper in front of me, Ellie at the other end coloring a picture of a unicorn, and thinking, is this really happening? I could barely breathe. My lawyer was calm about it, said it was a scare tactic. That their side didn't have a leg to stand on. "They're hoping to wear you down, make you settle," she told me. But they're bluffing. I didn't feel like they were bluffing. Ellie started having nightmares again. One night she came running into my room crying, clutching her bear, whispering, "I dreamed Savannah came back and made me eat soap because I spilled juice." That was the moment I snapped. I held her in my arms for an hour while she shook, whispering that she was safe, that Savannah couldn't touch her anymore. And when she finally fell asleep, I walked downstairs, poured myself a glass of water, and started a journal. Not for the court. Not for anyone else. Just for me. A place to pour the rage. The guilt. The helplessness. Because even though I had temporary custody, even though I was doing everything I could, I still felt like I'd failed. Like I should have seen all of this coming sooner. Like I let my baby get hurt because I wanted to believe co-parenting could work with someone who'd stopped showing up a long time ago. Jason kept pushing. His lawyer requested a child psychologist to evaluate Ellie. I agreed because what choice did I have? But it crushed me inside. I hated the idea of my little girl being poked and prodded emotionally like she was part of a science experiment when all she needed was peace. The psychologist was kind, gentle. She met with Ellie twice. With me once. Asked thoughtful questions. I didn't coach Ellie, I couldn't. I just told her to tell the truth. Whatever she felt. Whatever she remembered. And then I waited. 2 weeks passed. 2 long, aching weeks where Jason kept baiting me with texts. She'll forget about me soon, huh? Hope you're happy tearing our daughter apart. I didn't respond. I stopped answering entirely. My lawyer handled everything. But I read every message. Every word sank into my chest like a brick. When the psychologist's report came back, I cried. Because it confirmed everything. Ellie had symptoms of emotional trauma. Her drawings showed anxiety and fear when referencing stepmom. She described specific incidents of verbal abuse, of physical aggression, of being told she was unwanted. The report didn't just support my claim, it validated it. And that's what hit me hardest. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't bitter or trying to alienate my child. I was right to fight. Jason always cared about appearances. He was the kind of dad who showed up to school events in expensive cologne and new sneakers but forgot to ask Ellie what book she was reading. Surface-level fatherhood. He wanted the look of involvement, not the actual labor of it. So when the psychologist's report came out damning as hell and he realized he wasn't going to win this fight in court, he did what image-obsessed people do when their mask starts to slip. He made a scene. It happened at Ellie's spring recital. I almost didn't let her go. She'd been anxious, afraid he'd show up, and I had half a mind to keep her home and avoid the whole thing. But she'd been practicing her part for weeks, humming her little song around the house and choreographing hand movements with serious fourth-grade conviction. She wanted to go. So we went. I dressed her in a light pink dress with silver ballet flats and tied her hair back in a ribbon. She looked beautiful, proud, even like she was reclaiming something after weeks of chaos. The recital was held in the school auditorium and I made sure we got there early. Front row center. I had my phone ready to record. 10 minutes before the show started, he walked in. Alone. No Savannah this time, thank God. But Jason looked different. Not physically, he was still Jason in every typical Jason way, fleece jacket, hands shoved in his pockets, face blank. But his eyes were off. Wild almost. And the second he saw me, the blank mask dropped. He made a beeline for our row, sat 2 seats away from me like we were still some kind of family unit, and said, without even looking at me, I read the report. I didn't respond. I kept my eyes on the stage. She's exaggerating, he continued, quieter. You're letting her manipulate you. Savannah never laid a hand on her. I turned then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just enough to say, you lost. And you know it. Stop trying to rewrite the ending. He clenched his jaw. I'm not going to be cut out of my daughter's life. You did that yourself, I said. You chose her over Ellie. Over and over. You let a grown woman bully a child. Then it happened. Ellie walked onto the stage with the other kids and Jason, in the middle of a school recital, stood up and shouted, Ellie. Hey baby, I'm here. Daddy's here, see? She froze. You know that moment when someone's body moves but their face doesn't? That's what happened. Her hands lifted automatically into her dance pose, but her expression dropped. I saw it from the front row. That small flicker of joy fade into fear. Jason, I hissed under my breath, standing up, sit down. Now. He didn't. He took a step closer to the stage and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, she doesn't want to live with you. You're poisoning her against me. And that was it. A teacher, bless her soul, came down the aisle like a rocket. She stepped between Jason and the stage and told him firmly, you need to leave. Now. More teachers came. Parents started whispering. I saw someone recording. Jason resisted at first, muttered something about his rights as a father, but eventually they escorted him out. Ellie didn't finish her performance. She stood on that stage, tears welling in her eyes, until the music stopped and the curtain closed early. Later that night, as I held her while she cried, she asked me something that made my heart crack in two. Why does he keep choosing her? She didn't mean Savannah. Not entirely. She meant his need to be liked, to be right, to win. I told her what every child should know, but too few hear, it's not your fault when people choose badly. Grown-ups make mistakes. Sometimes big ones. But you are never the reason they act that way. She nodded, fell asleep in my arms. That night, I contacted my lawyer again and requested to pursue permanent sole custody. I wanted visitation rights restricted, therapy mandated. I wasn't playing defense anymore. Jason's meltdown made one thing painfully clear, this wasn't about co-parenting. It wasn't about Ellie at all. It was about control. And I wasn't giving it to him anymore. It had been a few weeks since the recital incident. Jason hadn't reached out, at least not directly. His lawyer had gone quiet. No new filings. No more public outbursts. For a moment, it felt like maybe we were finally turning a corner. Ellie had started laughing again, sleeping through the night more often than not. She even asked if we could adopt a hamster, and I took that as a sign she was starting to feel safe again. Then Savannah opened her mouth. It started with a post on a local mom's Facebook group. I wasn't in it, but a friend sent me screenshots. There, buried between PTA updates and lost dog alerts, was a long, passive-aggressive essay written by none other than Savannah under her full name, no burner account, no subtlety. It started with, "I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who had to defend herself against a bitter ex-wife, but here we are." It only got worse from there. She accused me of weaponizing a child for sympathy, of brainwashing Ellie to believe abuse that never happened, and of manipulating the courts by faking emotional trauma. She painted herself as the savior, the stepmother who only ever wanted to love a child who resented her from day one. She even said, and I quote, "It's not abuse to teach a child manners." Hundreds of comments poured in. Some people defended her. Others, people who knew me, started tagging me, telling me to see what was being said. I didn't respond. I didn't even want to see it. But of course I did. Every word. Every lie. And then the worst part came. A picture of Ellie. A picture she shouldn't have had. It was from the last time Ellie visited their house. Her face was red and blotchy, she'd been crying. The caption read, "Even on her worst days, I tried to love her." My stomach flipped. I felt physically sick. Posting a photo of my daughter, without permission, while mocking her distress. That was the final straw. I sent the screenshots to my lawyer immediately. They were added to our custody case as evidence. The post was removed within hours, probably on legal advice, but the damage was done. People had seen it. And Ellie? She may not have social media yet, but she will one day. And the internet never forgets. What really broke me, though, wasn't Savannah's post. It was what Ellie said that night while brushing her teeth. She looked up at me in the mirror and said, "Why did she post that picture?" I looked ugly. I dropped to my knees beside her. I told her she was beautiful, always. That picture didn't show how she looked, it showed how she felt, and no one had the right to mock that. She shrugged. "Savannah always said I cried too much. She said I had to toughen up. That nobody likes crybabies." And just like that, it hit me. All the quiet. The shrinking. The way Ellie stopped telling stories. The way she flinched when she knocked something over. The long pauses when I asked simple questions. That wasn't just fear, that was shame. Deep, internalized shame from being told, over and over, that she was too much. Too loud. Too sensitive. Too inconvenient. Savannah didn't need to beat her black and blue. She was breaking her in subtler ways, a slow erosion of self-worth that left invisible scars. And Jason? He stood by and watched. That night, after Ellie was asleep, I wrote another statement for the court, not just legal documentation, but a testament. A timeline of Ellie's emotional decline and recovery. The way she clung to me after visits. The way she described the punishments Savannah invented, timeouts in the closet, silent dinners if she talked too much, forced apologies for things she didn't understand. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't have to. The facts were chilling enough. And then, because I'm petty and protective and completely done being quiet, I contacted a journalist. A friend of a friend wrote for a parenting blog that covered custody advocacy and family court injustices. I shared my story anonymously with my lawyer's guidance. No names. No photos. Just the truth. Raw and unfiltered. It went viral. Hundreds of comments poured in from other moms, stepmoms, teachers, therapists. People saw themselves in Ellie. They saw the warning signs. They saw me. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone in this. Neither did Ellie. When I told her, in the simplest words I could, that a lot of people read our story and believed her, her eyes widened. "They do," she whispered. "They do," I said. "And I always will." The hearing for permanent custody felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, holding Ellie in one arm and every shred of evidence in the other, praying the ground wouldn't give out beneath us. I didn't sleep the night before. Neither did my mom, who flew in again to be with us. She made coffee at 3 a.m. and just sat with me while I flipped through every file, photo, email, and report for the 100th time. I wasn't scared of losing, not anymore. I was scared of Ellie seeing me lose faith. I couldn't let that happen. We arrived at the courthouse early. Ellie stayed home with my sister, who took her to the Science Museum to distract her from everything happening behind the scenes. She was excited about the dinosaur exhibit. I clung to that. Dinosaurs were safer than courtrooms. Jason showed up 15 minutes late, disheveled and visibly irritated. Savannah wasn't with him this time. I don't know if she wasn't allowed or if he finally realized she was more liability than partner, but the absence was noticeable. His lawyer looked tired. Like he already knew what was about to happen. When the judge called us in, it felt like walking into a final exam you know you studied for, but still have that deep pit in your gut, whispering, "What if you forgot something?" They went first. Jason's lawyer made a last-ditch effort to paint me as manipulative. Said I had alienated the child, that I poisoned the co-parenting relationship. He even suggested that Ellie's trauma was exaggerated through maternal influence. I wanted to scream. Then came my lawyer. Calm, steady, brutal in the softest way. She laid it all out: the pediatrician's report, the psychologist's evaluation, screenshots of Savannah's social media posts, the voicemail Jason left me after the recital. Yep, he called that night, slurring and sobbing, leaving a whole mess of incriminating garbage. Then she handed over a binder, neatly tabbed, filled with Ellie's journal drawings and school counselor notes. It was devastating, undeniable. But the moment that sealed everything? Jason was asked to speak. He stood there, hand twitching at his side, and when the judge asked him directly, "Did you witness your wife disciplining your daughter physically or emotionally in a way that could be considered abusive?" Jason looked straight ahead and said, "She was just trying to help. Ellie was difficult." There it was. No denial. No remorse. Just a cold justification for letting his wife damage his daughter. The judge paused. You could feel the temperature drop in the room. Then she said, "Thank you, Mr. Collins. That's all I need." 15 minutes later, it was over. Full custody granted to me. All visitations suspended pending further evaluation. No contact between Savannah and Ellie under any circumstance. Mandatory counseling ordered for Jason if he wishes to re-establish visitation in the future. I walked out of that courthouse numb. Not relieved. Not victorious. Just spent. Like every bone in my body had finally unclenched. When we got home, Ellie ran to the door, her little backpack bouncing on her shoulders. She showed me a sparkly keychain from the museum gift shop and said, "I picked this for you. It's a baby dinosaur. They said it's really strong even though it's small." I hugged her so tight she dropped the keychain. She laughed. I cried. Later that night, I told her gently that she wouldn't have to see Savannah anymore. That she'd stay with me full-time now, and we'd keep going to therapy like before. Just us. She blinked and for the first time really believed it. "Does that mean I can decorate my room how I want again?" she asked, eyes shining. "Yes," I smiled. "Any way you want." She chose rainbow stars, glittery ones. I ordered them that same night. He waited a full week before reaching out. 1 week after the custody ruling. When the dust had barely settled and Ellie had just stopped flinching in her sleep, I got the first message from Jason. No apology. No accountability. Just a simple text. "Can we talk?" I think we both said things we didn't mean. I stared at it for a long time. I read it 5 times, then put my phone down and went back to folding Ellie's laundry. Tiny socks, sparkly t-shirts, pajamas with unicorns. She was humming in her room, some silly made-up song about her hamster and pancakes, and I couldn't bring myself to let his voice cut into that piece. Not again. So I ignored him. The next day he called. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail, and this one I listened to. Because even though I knew better, some part of me still wanted to know what he had to say. Some leftover reflex from all those years I spent making excuses for his silence. His voice was shaky, not sad, controlled, like someone practicing vulnerability instead of actually feeling it. "Hey, look, I've had some time to think. I know things got messy and maybe Savannah wasn't the right person to help me parent, but I don't think it's fair how far this went. I'm still her dad. I deserve to be in her life. I'm not perfect, but neither are you. We made mistakes. Maybe we could meet, talk about next steps." For Ellie, next steps, like he hadn't just stood in a courtroom and defended the woman who traumatized his child. Like the last 3 months were just a bump in the road. I didn't reply. He emailed me next. A long, meandering apology that started with, "I know I hurt you," and ended with a paragraph about how he missed the family we used to be. And somewhere in the middle, he had the audacity to ask, "Is there any way you'd consider letting me visit her outside of court orders? Just once? Supervised, maybe. Just us. For closure." Closure. I printed that email and handed it to my lawyer. Then I sat down and wrote him a letter. I didn't send it, not right away. I don't know if I ever will, but I needed to write it. For me. For the version of myself who spent too many years swallowing my voice for the sake of a man who was cool with everything, until it actually mattered. Here's what I wrote. "Jason, you didn't lose Ellie because of Savannah. You lost her because you chose comfort over courage. You stood next to a woman who belittled your daughter, bruised her, emotionally and physically, and you called it parenting. You gaslit me. You gaslit her. And now, when the consequences arrive, you want to talk about next steps like this was some minor disagreement over bedtime routines? You don't get to rewrite the story now. Ellie is not your redemption arc. You want closure? Here it is. I don't hate you. I just finally see you clearly. You chose the path of least resistance every time it counted. And now I choose a life where my daughter never has to wonder why her pain was inconvenient to the man who was supposed to love her most. I will protect her, even from you. After writing it, I cried. Not because I missed him, not even because I was angry anymore. I cried because I finally let go. Later that night, Ellie asked if we could paint together. I laid out the brushes, the old newspaper, the dollar store watercolors. She painted a house with a big rainbow over it and a stick figure holding a cat and a tiny smiling girl. She added one more figure in the corner. Small, in pencil, no color. "That's Dad," she said softly. Far away but not angry. Just watching. I nodded, unsure of what to say. And then she added a sun over the whole thing. Bright yellow. "Maybe it'll be okay one day," she said. "But I like it like this. So do I, baby. So do I." Healing is quiet sometimes. It doesn't announce itself like trauma does. It slips in slowly, like light creeping under a closed door, so soft you barely notice until the whole room feels different. That's how it was with Ellie. Not this grand, cinematic turnaround, just little flickers of brightness where there used to be shadows. And then one day it just showed up, big and loud and public. It happened during school pickup. It had been maybe a month since the final custody ruling. Ellie had started second grade with a new haircut and a new backpack. Glittery, purple, covered in space cats. Her choice. She was thriving. Her teacher emailed me twice to say she was blossoming socially and engaging with a level of confidence we hadn't seen before. I'd printed both emails and stuck them on the fridge next to her art. On that Thursday, I pulled into the school parking lot right as the dismissal bell rang. Parents were gathering like usual, some with Starbucks cups, others chatting by the curb. I was scrolling through my inbox when I looked up and froze. Jason. He was standing across the lot, leaning against the fence like he had a right to be there. Like this was still his place. My stomach dropped. I hadn't been warned. There was no court-approved visit. I scanned the crowd for staff and thank God Ms. Rivera, the assistant principal, was just a few steps away from him, already on her radio. I threw my car into park and bolted across the asphalt. "Jason," I said, firm but low, "you can't be here." He had the nerve to smile. "I just wanted to see her." "That's not illegal, is it?" "Yes," Ms. Rivera interjected, stepping between us. "You're not on the pickup list. You'll need to leave before we call the authorities." He opened his mouth to argue, but then a voice cut through the air, small, certain, unshaken. "Mom." "Ellie." She was running across the field, hair bouncing, backpack slapping against her back, waving a piece of paper in her hand. She saw Jason. She stopped. Stared. Her smile faltered for a second, then she looked at me. And that's when the healing hit me in the chest like a freight train. Because she didn't look afraid. She didn't shrink. She didn't freeze. She looked calm. Like she'd already sorted this out in her mind. She walked right past him and into my arms. "I got Student of the Week," she said, holding up the paper. "Wanna see?" Jason took a step forward. "Ellie, hey." She turned to him, polite and measured. "Hi. I'm going home now. That's all. Not angry. Not cruel. Just a boundary drawn with all the quiet strength I'd prayed she would find someday." I wrapped an arm around her and walked back to the car. Ms. Rivera stayed behind to escort Jason off school grounds, and I didn't look back once. In the car, Ellie buckled herself in and said he looked tired. I didn't know what to say. So I asked, "How did that feel?" She paused. "Like I'm not scared anymore." I blinked fast, pretending the sun was in my eyes. Later that night, I watched her tape the Student of the Week certificate onto the fridge right next to the teacher emails. She decorated it with heart stickers. Then she picked up a marker and added a tiny word to the bottom of the paper in her big loopy letters. "Brave. I think I'll keep that one forever." Sitting here in the quiet of the night, with Ellie fast asleep and the house finally still, I'm left with nothing but memories of how far we've come and how much it all cost. I still see those early, heart-wrenching moments, the bruises, the whispers that made Ellie doubt her own worth, and Jason's deafening silence when I needed him to fight for her. It was a war I never wanted to declare, but a battle that demanded I stand up not just for Ellie, but for every child who's ever been made to feel less than loved. Looking back, I lost so much. The years of shared routines and compromises, the hope that Jason's laid-back nature would safeguard our daughter even when it meant tolerating unacceptable behavior. I lost the idea of a united family that I'd once clung to, and in its place, I discovered a reservoir of strength I never knew I had. I learned that sometimes being a parent means making the hardest choices that might shatter certain illusions but pave the way for real healing and genuine protection. Ellie taught me what real courage is. It isn't the loud, boastful kind you see in movies, it's the quiet decision to walk away from a situation that hurts even when it hurts more to leave. Her steady, brave acceptance at school, the confident sticker, brave, she added to her award, that was the real testimony of healing. It reminded me that no matter how much darkness we face, the light in a child's heart can remind you what's worth fighting for. I often wonder about the cost of it all. I lost the chance to repair a co-parenting relationship that might have worked if someone had spoken up sooner. I lost some of my own innocence as I watched my daughter bear the weight of other people's failures. But I gained something far more precious, the fierce, unyielding belief that Ellie's well-being is paramount, that a parent's job is to guard that spirit no matter what it takes, even if it means standing alone in a courtroom against family, against a past that refuses to die. If there's one message I'd share with any parent struggling in a similar storm, it's this: trust your gut. Listen to the whispers of your child when they say something feels off. You might be met with resistance, with disbelief from those who should understand you best. But remember, the truth your child carries in their eyes is more honest than any excuse or denial. Don't be afraid to fight for every tear saved, for every tiny smile, for every promise that your child will never have to feel unloved or unsafe again. In the end, healing is imperfect. It's full of setbacks and breakthroughs, and sometimes it means letting go of who you thought your family would be in favor of nurturing what your family truly is. I stand here now, not with a triumphant, celebratory smile, but with a deep, quiet resolve. I know the road ahead is long and some scars may never fully fade. But every day, as I watch Ellie reclaim her laughter and her sense of self, I'm reminded that our fight was worth every bitter tear. To anyone standing where I once stood, you are stronger than the chaos around you. Trust in the love you have for your child and never, ever let that love be compromised by anyone else's need for comfort. Your child's happiness is the prize, and sometimes the only path to get there is to light your own, even when darkness seems overwhelming. Stay brave, stay vigilant, and remember, you are your child's most powerful guardian.